And hello, welcome everybody to Mastering Sales with Brent Gove. I'm down here in Miami at 10X. I'm having a great time. Just heard Tucker Carlson speak, heard John Maxwell speak. They did a speak off with 5 other speakers and just powerful business communicators. Such a great day. I'm so inspired. But today, I'm here to talk to you about the NAR lawsuit, the settlement, and the new sweeping changes in real estate. Everybody's a little freaked out. It's kind of like the iPhone. It's like, well, what do you mean? Where are my buttons? There's glass. I'm very tactile. There's where are the buttons? And it's like, you had to give up your 8-track cassette tape player, the Sony Walkman technology for a CD player, and then digital. What do you mean I'm download from the cloud? What's that? iTunes. I like to have my album, my vinyl album. And so are you a dinosaur? Do not be afraid of this. This is going to be great. NAR gave you a big gift. I will say this, the weak agent's the one who shouldn't be in real estate. It will blow them out. So what's the gift? They are going to leave the tree, the bush, the hedge is going to get pruned, and there'll be more business for you and I. There'll be more business for the professionals. Amateurs are going to lose with what NAR did. Pros are going to win. You are all pros. I am preaching to the choir. So let's get into it. What happens when you go on a listing appointment? Nothing. You do your presentation, you get down to your listing agreement, and you say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, my fee is 6%. I collect 3%. And I recommend you offer 3% out to the buyer. Nothing's changed. All NAR said is we can't advertise that. We just can't advertise it. That is what the settlement was. We're not allowed to advertise it. But I highly recommend that you offer a commission to the seller. It's always bit to the buyer. For 100 years, it's worked this way. So here's how this works. If you don't offer a commission for the buyer's agent, they will skip your house. Not all of them, but many of them. And it's all about supply and demand. If you lose the supply of buyers and the demand languishes on your house, the price could come down 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000. If it's the high end, 100 grand, $200,000, $300,000. You want to expose your home to every possible buyer on the market. So they call me and say, sorry, we're not offering a commission as was customary for 100 years. I'm telling you right now, many agents will not bring their client to your home, or they will do their best to tell them why they shouldn't buy your home. They're going to come up with every possible, it's near power lines, it's by a school, and there'll be all traffic of people dropping off their kids, or this neighborhood puts up a lot of Christmas lights. They're famous for it. It'll take you 20 minutes to park at night and to leave at night. They will go through. Do you know what the crime rates are here? So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I highly recommend that you do 6 and 3. You don't have to, but if you were my brother, my sister, my mom, my dad, I would make you do this. I talk to people like that. I'm a leader. I lead. They're not the leaders. If he's a dentist, he's the leader. He helps me with my teeth. Optometrist, there, I listen to him. Here, I'm the pro. So like I said, professionals are going to win, amateurs are going to lose. So nothing changes, and then you just can't put the 3% in the MLS. But when you can't put it in Zillow, you can't put it in Redfin, you can't put it on your website, third party. In fact, real quick, let's put up what actually happened. We're going to share the screen. I am prepared. So if you read the left-hand corner, that says the National Association of Realtors. And then at the top, reaches agreement to resolve the nationwide claims brought on by home sellers. So here are the 3 big changes. Number 1, cooperative commission is no longer required, but highly encouraged. People are going to skip you, and it's going to affect your sales price. It remains optional, as it always has been, by the way, for 100 years. And there are some stubborn sellers who won't do it. And guess what? Their homes, statistical fact, sell for less. And then they do all the work, and then they take on the liability. They can no longer be advertised in any MLS field or any third-party system using MLS data. That means your website is another system. So we're going to figure this out as we go, but agents will simply call you and go, hey, Kevin, are you offering a commission? Yeah, 3%. Noel Kreider, are you offering? Yeah, 3%. Hey, John. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Drew. Hey, Clark, are you offering? Yeah, 3%. And guess what? They're going to be showing them. So Nothing's going to change if you're a listing agent. Now, some weak agents may list for 3. Hey, you don't have to, or I don't want to. Or then they will be offering nothing for the buyer's agent. And I'm telling you, people are going to skip and it's going to hurt the seller. I would never do that to you. And so it's going to be fine. Number 2, all realtors, and I'm going to take Q&A at the end. All realtors and MLS participants must have a buyer broker agreement executed prior to touring any property, and final compensation cannot exceed what's on the BBA, buyer broker agreement. This is awesome. This is a Christmas present. This is, on the East Coast, they use buyer broker agreement. They couldn't imagine not using it. On the West Coast, we're like Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Idaho, Utah, Oregon. Like 1% of the agents use BBA. On the East Coast, everybody uses it. It's actually how it's done. And we think it's weird on the West Coast, but do you think it's weird to take a listing and not do a listing agreement? Well, that's weird. Of course you have a listing agreement. Well, they think it's weird that we don't have a buyer broker agreement. So now you show them this, print this off and go, it's now, this is the law that we must have, not should have. Must. The top one says offering a commission remains optional, as always. It's optional. But this one, you can't show property. This is a gift because now they're trying to protect the consumers. Well, now the consumers are going to be handcuffed to you for 6 months or a year, and they're going to be stuck. Now, some consumers are going to get stuck with some agents that aren't that good, but you're going to go, I cannot show you the home unless you sign this. It's like the law. And so guess what? They're going to sign. Fine. Where do I sign? And you okay. And the way this works is the commission is 3%, not 2.5, not 2. The MLS, it's been a race to the bottom. It's been 3, 2.75, 2.5, 2.25, 2. It's been dropping. Well, now that they have to do a BBA, you just say my fee is 3. It's pretty standard fee, 3%. It's what it is. And what this new lawsuit says, Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Seller, is that the big lawsuit says we want the buyer to have the right to have to pay it. And we want the seller to have the right not to have to pay it, which incidentally, the seller's always had the right not to pay it. That's always been the case, but that's a whole nother story. But so let me ask you, Mr. Buyer, do you want to pay 3% on this $500,000 home? It's a $15,000 fee. I know you got your down payment. You got your closing costs. You also want to pay $15,000. What do you think they're going to say? They're going to say, nope. I said, okay. So what we're going to do, we make an offer. We're going to have the seller pay, which is customary and normal. And that's how this is going to work. You good? You good? Yeah, we're good. Unless you want to pay it. No, I don't want to pay it. Okay. Seller's going to pay the 3%. Now, the reason you don't want to put 2 or 2.5, because if I call Kevin or John or Lisa or Noel Kreider or Drew Johnson, and he's offering 3, and in my BBA, I put 2, all you get is 2. They tell, we'll give you 3. If you look at the number 2, prior to any touring, final compensation cannot exceed what was agreed to in the BBA. So if you put 1% or 2, that's all you're getting. It doesn't matter if they say, we'll give 10% commission. Whatever you put the BBA is yours. So I would say my normal commission is 3. H&R Block will do your taxes for, I don't know, $175. I started hiring a lawyer for $1,700. I mean, the CPA, 10 times the amount, because he was better. Not all agents are created equally. Charge what you want. If you want, you could charge 5%. Charge 4%. You could charge 10%. Commercial real estate, it's 10% off it. Charge whatever you want. This is a gift. So when the MLSs, when the commissions have been dropping in the MLS, you could set yours at 3, and I could call a listing agent and said, hey, here's the bottom line. Are your sellers going to pay the 3% commission? No, they're not. They're not going to pay it. Okay, I will take it off my showing list because our buyer refuses to pay it. They have money for the down payment, closing costs. They couldn't pay it if they wanted to pay it. So please let your seller know that we are going to remove their beautiful home from our showing list. If they change their mind, let me know. And they're going to call and say, I got another one. They're canceling. We got to offer a commission. This is crazy. And so we're going to find our way through this. But here's the deal. You're going to start getting through, because I know some of you, the MLS, it's 3% is normal. For the rest of us in Sacramento and other markets, it's 2.5%. You go to some of these markets in Florida where they sell a home for $15 million, they pay 1%. Now, which is, do the math on that, right? It's not much for a $15 million home. It's something. Now you're going to get 3%. You're going to get triple. This thing is a gift. And then number three, since all commission amounts are now negotiable with each party prior to the offer, which has always been the case, commissions have always been negotiable. The amount the seller contributes to buyer's commission can be negotiated with the purchase contract, which is just what I said. Hey, if you don't want to pay me, I'll skip your house. If you want to pay me, by the way, my fee is 4%. You've been on the market for 30 days, 60 days. You're 1.7 million. I'm 4%. You want my buyer? We're 4%. You can strong arm that seller. It's all negotiable. Just make sure it's 4% in your BBA. With that, I am going to, by the way, I will say this before I take Q&A. So let's get that off the screen here. And if you'd like to ask a question, go down to reactions and then hit raise my hand. When you're done, hit lower my hand. But I want to say this. This is a huge opportunity for us. You could go, oh no, oh no, no. It's going to be weird until it's not. I liked my pager. Then I found the BlackBerry's better. And then I love my BlackBerry. We used to joke around and call them crackberries. Very addicting. I'm very tactile. I like the buttons. And now I was so upset about this, this iPhone. And there's my beautiful wife, my iPhone. And I was like, I don't like the glass. It feels weird. I love it. I absolutely love it now. I can run an empire from Costa Rica in a hammock with this bad boy. And let me tell you what, you're going to love what NAR did for us on accident. They rolled over, and the pros are going to make more money. And the weaker agents, it's going to prune the tree. And what happens to a tree after it gets pruned? It comes back fuller, healthier, with more fruit. This is a win for us, not a loss. You just got to know what you're doing. So with that, I'm going to go to Matthew Stewart. Matthew, the floor is yours. We'll do some Q&A on this real quick.
Hey, buddy. Yeah. So question, can you do a BBA specifically to each property? Like, for example, you mentioned a new home builder pays 5% plus incentives, but yet normal resale homes are 2.5%, 3%.
Yeah. Just say we're going to be looking at resale homes. We're going to look at new construction. So we're going to set this at 5%. If we end up getting one that residential, we'll do 3%. But because we're looking at new builds, it will be 5%. And just, if you make it a big deal, it's a big deal. If you're like, if you're nervous and this, they'll be nervous. But if you're calm and like, this is how it is, like, okay, where do I sign? If you do new construction, you get 5. If they go, hey, I'm offering 3, you could do 3. So I would just set it at 5. Commissions can be what they can be. We don't set commissions. It can be 10%. I remember I got a little, someone really, really, really wanted me to sell a lot in a really bad part of town for $88,000. What's 3% of $88,000? Like $2,500. And then your broker gets a piece and all this, and you pay the TC there $300. It was like maybe make $1,900 when it was all said and done. I said, hey, I'll do it, but my fee for selling land is 10%. It isn't 3%. It's not saying it's 10%. So my commission got back up to $8,800, 10% of 88,000. And then I get paid $350 this. I'm sorry. I mean, this takes as much or more work than selling a house. Selling land could take a year. Selling a house takes a month or 2. I go, honestly, I should charge you 20%. That's what I should charge you. It's how you talk to people. So tell them the truth. Tell them the truth with conviction. Drew, real quick, we're gonna do rapid fire questions.
So I know that when it comes to steering, it's mainly based off of race or ethnicity or anything like that. Is there any implications when it comes to purely based off of
redlining? Is about economic areas and about race. This is not steering. You had a discussion with your client. Do you want to pay the 3%? No, I don't. Do you want the seller to pay it? Yes, I do. Okay, so the seller has to pay this. And if they're not willing to pay it, we're moving on. It's that simple, because you don't want to pay it. And there's plenty of other fish in the sea. And we're going to find you a beautiful home. And this is what sellers do. They're going to pay this. And so I know a seller that wouldn't pay it. You're worried about getting electrocuted mowing your lawn. There's always going to be the story of oh no, I was on a plane and it crashed. That is 1 in 8 million. And yes, those stories will be there and all that. And so I'm not saying to steer people from low income areas or to say, hey, you don't want to buy here. There's too many white people here. Don't buy here. That's not what I'm saying at all. Noel Kreider. Yes, Noel, fire away.
Hi, Brent. So let's say that you have a buyer broker agreement and you get them to sign for 3%. Let's say the buyer or the seller says 10,000, right? Period. We're not going to pay any more than that. Now, at this point, we want to get the deal done. And
you could agree to drop your commission to 10. Yes, you could.
okay.
I would go to my client, look, our fee's 3, it's 15,000. The seller will only do 10, so you're gonna have to make up the 5 if we go after this house. Are you good with that? So what we'll do is we'll negotiate the price of the home, and we're gonna put 5,000 towards the commission on top of the 10. And so you're just gonna have to work it out as you're going through the deal. If the seller wants to sell, well, he would have sold it for 770. Now he's going to sell it for 775 and pay $5,000 towards the commission. They want you to negotiate with the purchase price. This has been a total no-no for decades and decades and decades. It was called a fiduciary, you're interfering with the fiduciary relationship. It was a massive no-no to punch the seller in the face. And now they're saying, we want you to punch the seller in the face. You get to negotiate your commission. You can just come and boom and go. And let me tell you what, the players are going to do it because you're worth your pay. Does your CPA say, well, I know my fee's normally $4,000 of your taxes and I'll do it for 1,000? No, you're worth what you're worth. Stand up for yourself. They unleashed us to get what we're worth. And there you go. And you charge what you're worth. If you think you're worth $5,000 a deal, charge 5. You think you're worth 10, charge 10. You think you're worth 40, charge 40. Some people think that's outrageous. I was in Hilton Head. Every commission they get is about 80,000 a pop. They would never work for 40,000. Ever in their wildest dreams would they work for 40,000. They think that's ridiculous. So it's just in your head that 5 or 10 or 20s. It's kind of up to you. You think, well, I don't drive a Lamborghini. That's outrageous. So what do you drive? I drive a Dodge Caravan. What's that cost? Well, fully loaded, it was $55,000. We know to someone in a third world country, that was like 20 years worth of income. And so, it's all relative. So great question, Noel. Thank you.
Thank
Dana
you.
Bush, you're up next, then Zizas. Dana, fire away.
How is this going to work with open houses? Like myself, I spend a lot of time holding open model homes.
Great question. That is a great question. I don't know. No one's asked me that question yet. I'm really curious. If somebody's asked that question from somebody in the know, please inform us. No one said that to me yet, but here's the deal. This is a work in progress. We will, and we are, and we're going to figure this out. It's going to be like, you ever like work with the buyer for 6 months and you come back and you're trying to take him out. You've been out of town. You call them Monday. Hey, you ready to go out this weekend? They go, what? And you're like, you did what? Yeah, we walked in an open house yesterday in Auburn. We love it. We're so excited. They don't realize you went out for them for weeks, sometimes months. And they're like, we bought a house. And they're so excited. You're like, oh, so great. So the buyer broker agreement stops that from happening. And that creates a lot of pain for people. And it's over. Thank you, NAR. So Dana, I don't have the answer to your question from Lake Jackson, Texas, but it's a great question. Does anybody have the answer to Dana's question that you've checked with the broker? What do we do about open houses? That's a great question. Anybody?
I've heard from they did a town hall with our state realtor association, and they said they didn't think there was, it's too new, right? Not everybody has it, but they didn't think there was going to be a need for a BBA for open houses.
So don't tour the house. It sounds like touring the house at an open house. See, this is shaky, but here's the deal. We're going to figure out, you may, hey, sign this BBA that I think it was Drew. It might've been Matthew. I think Matthew, do you have to do one for every house? Maybe just do an open house. Hey, sign here real quick. This just allows me to show you this house. put your name, your phone number clearly right here. You know, before you had to like, you could show them, I cannot tour this house with you. Even if you don't have to, you can show them, hey, according to this, I cannot tour the house. That's the big lawsuit you heard about. Trust me, you guys are in the business. You guys are absolute pros and you're not sure. Could you imagine the consumers? So like, people call me, what the heck's going on with real estate? They have no clue. You think, well, I don't know that much. You know 10 times more than they do, especially after this call. Zesis, fire away, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So I had a situation where I held an open house for one of our agents. And then I told the buyer, I said, well, you can buy it. I'll hook you up with the lender. You do have enough equity. So I invited them back the second weekend, all ready to sign the listing agreement and write up an offer. And then some other agent goes, well, I sold them the house 15 years ago and they've been my friend for 20 years and I got screwed out of the deal. And I kept on trying to meet with them. And I'm usually like a listing agent. So, and the buyers I work with buy my listing. So it's kind of awkward when we just like meet someone the first time at a property and you don't have an opportunity. Like I'll get people to call me like, oh, well, I want to use you as an agent because you know what you're doing. And we're tried the online platform agents and they don't help us. And so like I met one and hopefully we'll open up escrow, but it was kind of like awkward to ask them to sign it before you actually enter the house, or people getting them to sign it on the back of their car if they don't get an opportunity to do a buyer broker agreement the first time.
According to what we all just read, you cannot tour a home without one signed. Show it to them, you must sign. I can't give up my real estate license. And if I break the law for you to show you this house, what would I do to you during the thing? If somebody else might break the law to show it to you, I obey the law. I don't break the law. And they're going to appreciate that. And the ones who don't appreciate that, you don't want them for clients. So you threw me off. I said, Zesis, I want to hear from you. Then you started talking. I go, man, that doesn't sound like Zesis. And I didn't see.
Oh, I thought you said Lisa.
Yeah, it's totally fine. It threw me off big time. All right. Well, good question. And again,
one other thing too, just before you go on to the next person, I heard there was like an EXP buyer broker agreement. Are you aware of that? Because I was trying to find it.
I have not heard of an EXP buyer broker agreement. Has anybody confirmed or denied the existence of that? Anybody heard?
They sent an email about a buyer's packet or something, or a buyer packet or something like that. Check your email on that.
Okay, so Lisa, since you brought up this question, I'm going to task you with the job of attacking, what state do you live in again?
California.
So go attack the California state brokers and ask them about that EXP. The next week, your job is to hit the button because I'm going to forget. You know me, I'm going to forget. And you're going to go, hey, everyone, I got the answer. So great question. You have to do that. And then whoever asked the question about open houses, I think it was earlier, same with you. Go talk to the broker. Let's get some additional information on that because I didn't like that answer. No, open house. It's touring a home. I personally disagree with that on the face. I know you all just want to tour the home and not deal with it. I like the idea of having people, they're yours then, that you own them. Zesis, your turn. Good questions, Lisa. Thank you. Zesis, fire away.
Okay. Actually, both of them kind of got answered. I have a broker's agreement right now. It's actually the first one I've ever done since I've been a realtor, right? Never done one until this stuff came up. But it's for a substantial property. The conversation with the buyer turned out, I used the additional terms in the broker agreement, that if the seller came back on a home that we found in this price point, because it's not that easy to find here in Las Vegas, would you be willing to pay the shortage from the seller side? And he agreed to that. But what I just heard you say, I like a whole lot better in terms of, hey, it's 3%. If they say no, we can move on, because I actually did have a tour where the selling agent told me right up front in the middle of the tour, there's no seller concession.
Yeah. So what I would do is pull them off that tour immediately and go, man, it's too bad. I had a motivated buyer that loved your house. I have a cash buyer. That is a shame. Please let your seller know that we're happy to come back if they change their mind, but we are definitely moving on. And ask the listing agent to tell them that, I would have so much fun.
Exactly.
That's gonna be fun. We're gonna figure this out, and we're gonna survive.
That's exactly what happened. I actually told him, the buyer's out of state, so I told him that it was early for that conversation. He hasn't
Yeah.
shown interest or commitment to
See,
the house.
there's too many homes for sale where they'll pay that. I don't want you to have to pay $15,000, $20,000. So we're gonna skip that house. Tell them, communicate.
Exactly.
And we're gonna take it off because they're misbehaving. And we'll let them know. And if they decide to put it back on, they're willing to pay the kids. I don't want you to pay $15,000 or $20,000.
Exactly.
It's if you're like, well, would you sort of, like, I don't think so. I'm gonna get a new agent. And so you have to be confident and it is true. Everything I said was spot on. Final question, because we are over time. Joanne.
Last question, Brent. On the open house deal, from what I've heard is when the original buyer broker agreement is set up, if there's going to be agents that are going to be used for open house, they need to be listed in the buyer broker's agreement. And then they can show that home under that agreement. Have you heard that as well?
Sounds right, because then they're touring a home without a buyer broker agreement. So you just have to do a little addendum, a quick win farm over. Hey, I'm not going to be able to tour homes this weekend. I'm at Apple Hill or the Pumpkin Patch or the beach or the mountains with my family. It's 4th of July, but I've arranged for Joanne Pullen to show property to you in Halifax. I know you don't want to buy a home in Halifax, but you're going to have to buy a home in Halifax. I'm kidding. But so Joanne's going to show it in the new, I have to have you sign that she's a part of what we do, or whether we're not allowed to show you the home. This is how it works in real estate. Don't make it a big deal. You make this stuff a big deal, it will be a big deal. You make it no big deal, it's no big deal. Great question.
I'd like to offer something if I may.
Yeah.
In Nova Scotia, Canada, we've always had buyer agreements. We're not allowed to tour a house without them. So here in Nova Scotia, we're one of the few provinces that we've always had them. So what I do with my buyer agreements, instead of having a house address, I say the province of Nova Scotia. That way, if I'm out of the HRM area, I'm covering my ass for the entire province, that they got to work with me. Number one, I set my percentage. I set it on the average. It's usually 2.5 or 3. And then if the seller's not willing to pay us that, it's right now in our cut sheets what they're willing to pay. I do an amendment and I change it to what the seller's willing to pay. So we've already had this in place. That's why we don't think we're really going to be affected by it, because we've always had buyer broker agreements and we don't show houses without them.
Yeah, I'm going to say a really stupid thing. Is NAR a Canadian thing? I thought it was a US thing.
No, well, it's different provinces. So we have Nova Scotia Association of Realtors.
Yeah, so you're not a part of NAR.
No, we're not a part
so this
of
does
NAR.
not affect you one iota.
Not a bit, but people are talking about it. And I think there's some Canadian provinces that don't have buyer brokerage agreements, but Nova Scotia is ahead of the times, I guess, because we've always had them, which sort of protects the buyers have already stipulated where it's going to land, right? So
people on the East Coast, thank you, Joanne, North Carolina, South Carolina, New Jersey, New York, Maine, they all use these things. They're like, think we're weird for not using them. We're all freaked out. We have to use them. It's like switching to a smartphone or an iPhone from your little Nokia with the buttons. And it's going to be a good thing. So I don't see any more hands raised. So I'm going to get back into 10X right now. I love you all. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place, same bat channel, 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern for the agent attraction training. And of course, this is Mastering Sales with Brent Gove. So that's 2:10 Pacific and 5:10 Eastern. We will see you there. Love you guys. Have a great day. Bye from Miami, Florida. Bye from now.